It is about empowering folks to rebuild what they can in their communities, to build more inclusive communities, to build sustainable systems outside of the capitalist model that's failed them.
Which side are you on? Which side are you on?
We have Warren on the line.
And yes, Warren is driving down the interstate talking to us while doing 80 miles an hour.
That's right. So, Warren, thank you for being on here. Thank you for your time and for all you do. Wanted to have you on to talk about a couple of things. First, I wanted you to sort of reintroduce yourself. You've been a longtime friend of the show, but it's been quite a while since you've been on the air, I believe. You were one of the many volunteers who helped with last year's Strike Fest. We run into you at all the various functions across the state, but tell us about your background and, what got you into activism and organizing.
I often say it's a moral imperative now, but go ahead and give you my intro. I'm Warren Tidwell. I'm Community Resilience Coordinator for Hometown Action and Hometown Organizing Project. I'm a former mechanic who has somehow found a way to do community organizing and, keep the lights on. I'm actually out in Camp Hill, Alabama today. That's why I'm coming to you from my car.
Right on. What are you doing out in Camp Hill?
Camp Hill, Alabama's in Tallapoosa County. It's northwest of me in Auburn. And I was invited in by some of the local folks here who want to do some community building work. Camp Hill is no different than a lot of communities in Alabama. The industries have gone, the businesses have gone. And, after the folks, they extracted what they could from the people here, they moved on. And so this is a town that is north of 50% below the poverty line. But there are some wonderful folks here doing good work. And of course, with Hometown Action, we seek to support that. And we seek to support the work that's going on. I used to say that I work in a lot of places where nobody's doing anything or nothing's going on. And that's just not the case. I mean, there's wonderful folks in every one of these communities who are trying their best to do what they can for their communities.
Right on. So what kind of activism and organizing have you been involved in? Like, what are the kind of things that you're doing in communities like Camp Hill?
Oh, goodness. This is a food desert. And so we originally set out to talk to folks and find out what their desires are for their communities, right? So they informed the work. And a big thing here was that there was this food desert, I think 30 minutes to the nearest grocery store, impoverished community. So we now have a local individual who has started a weekly marketplace, farmers market, got everybody set up with the vouchers to get fresh fruit and vegetables who are eligible here in the community. So it's a small thing, but it really isn't in the fact that they didn't have this before. So that's a small part of it. But I mean, you name it. I mean, we've got so many working groups in Hometown Action. I do the community resilience work, but we've got folks out there with our healthcare working group who are advocating for, Medicare for all, expanding Medicaid, these issues of having all of our rural hospitals closed, and trying to get into communities and, seek ways that we can support folks when it comes to that. As you very well know, I'm a big advocate for unions, support a lot of union organizers. I've gotten to know so many wonderful folks in Brookwood through the Warrior Met strike over there. And of course, been working with y'all on that. So wherever there's a need in these small communities and we can support the folks doing that work, we're going to try and be there.
Yeah, awesome. And, Hometown Action has been a sponsor of the Valley Labor Report for quite some time. We've had several of y'all on the show. And you've shared a little bit about what y'all do and your emphasis. But for those people who are just like totally not familiar, they maybe never heard of Hometown Action before today. Tell us, what is the focus of the organization, and how do y'all operate? What kind of organization is this?
Well, we're all about the collective effort across these rural communities. And we seek to connect these communities and the people within them to be able to support each other. But it is about empowering folks to rebuild what they can in their communities, to build more inclusive communities, to build sustainable systems outside of the capitalist model that's failed them. There's a lot of that goes on, and um, it's people, it's working class folks supporting each other, and it's building across building across that divide of race and class, and organizing across that, and helping folks also realize that we're all in this together and we've got to take care of each other. So it's I could go on for an hour, my thoughts on that, but the problem is we have so many of these communities that have been abandoned, and it's been by design, and we have so many people who have been extracted from and are dispossessed and are are quite hopeless in a lot of cases, even though there's a lot of brilliant folks within their communities that they can work with. So a lot of what we do is, personally, I build bridges between folks who traditionally haven't worked together. Here in Camp Hill, we've got the First Universalist Church and we've got Mount Lovely Baptist Church. These are churches that have traditionally been completely segregated, and they're working together on the marketplace project here. And we've got folks who've lived here for generations who are going inside of each other's buildings and they've never been there. These folks who aren't talking. And so I personally approach it. I have a fairly simple method, and that is, connecting folks, and let's talk about what does community build to you mean to you, and what are we going to do together to help rebuild that idea of what community is.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely so cool. I really appreciate what Hometown Action is out there doing, and especially y'all's focus on rural communities that don't get the attention that a Birmingham or Huntsville would get. And I think it really it takes people operating in different spaces from different angles, so that we can all pull together. I think we need folks in the workplace building unions, but we also need folks out in the community building people power in other ways, which I think Hometown Action is there in that arena, whether it's mutual aid or other ways that we can build people power in our own neighborhoods and our own towns and cities. So, really appreciate what y'all are doing there. Um, did y'all have any? Would you say there's any like priorities that Hometown Action has coming up, or is there anything y'all have like slated for the next year that you're excited about?
Oh, for sure. We've got a lot of canvassing efforts going on in communities across Alabama right now, because not only we've got to do that, we've got to get the work informed by the folks in these communities. So that's we're at a,
And so
a
let me stop you there. When you're talking about canvassing, in this
Mhm.
context, we're talking more like a deep canvassing where Hometown Action is out talking to people in the community, more so listening to people in the community. Not This isn't the same as canvassing to like go get you to vote for somebody on a certain day, right?
For sure, for sure. I mean, that's it, you hit the nail on the head with listening. No one listens anymore, right? And folks want to tell their stories. They want to be seen and they want to be heard. And these areas, these rural areas that have been abandoned, that are vacuums now, that are being filled with extremism because we don't have folks challenging narratives. We don't have folks giving an alternative in some of these areas. I mean, perfect example is like with the striking miners. When we came in, it was about supporting the workers there, supporting their families, and I've seen a lot of folks, hearts and minds change about what they've been told and what they've been taught, and how people have tried to divide them against their neighbors and against each other. And so just at a fundamental level, that's what it's about, is listening to people, figuring out what their their needs are, what their dreams and desires are, what they want to protect in their community, right? And then what they want to build on. And I often get this question from a lot of folks. I got it at the Labor Notes Troublemaker School, at the panel I was on, and it was like, how do I even begin? And it's like, go talk to your neighbors. There are people within your community who can help you figure this stuff out. You don't have to do it on your own, right?
Right. It starts one conversation at a time, I think. Uh, and I think that's the best way to approach it. If you wake up in the morning and think you're just gonna solve the world's problems that day, you're in for a lot of disappointment. But I think if you have the approach that one conversation at a time, you can start to build solidarity. You can start to form allies in the community and find shared interest. There's a lot that we can do to make our world a better place. And so I really appreciate what y'all are doing in Hometown Action here in the state of Alabama. Uh, so why should people get involved with Hometown Action, and how can they actually do that?
Um, we are one of the very few organizations I feel is doing work that is very focused on rural areas. I feel like if we don't figure this out, if we don't connect enough of our people, if we don't rebuild what these communities are, the reckoning that is coming as a result of the wholesale abandonment of our people in a lot of these spaces is not going to be pleasant, and it's not going to stay in the rural areas. Like, we don't live in a vacuum. The issues that Atlanta faces and the issues that Camp Hill faces, a lot of them are very similar in a lot of ways. And a lot of the conversations that I've had, I feel like, as I said in the beginning, it's a moral imperative that we do this work and that we figure out how to work together, because the future that I personally and a lot of others who agree with me see coming isn't a pleasant one if we don't learn to live together, and we don't stop. If we have to start breaking down these divides, right, these invisible walls that have been built between all of us. And for me, the cornerstone of that, and what I've come to realize, is the focus on sharing, working class, our self-interest. It's been done before. We're not reinventing the wheel.
Right.
People in the past have been saying this for a long time. The problem is we don't see it going on in a wholesale effort in rural spaces.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. I mean, and we do have a rich history to draw from of ordinary people organizing amongst each other and coming together across lines of race and gender and religion and all these other barriers that are out there to divide us from one another. And that's the one thing that the leadership of Alabama has always feared more than anything else is when ordinary people, particularly ordinary white and black people, are able to
Right.
come together and fight for their common interests. So anything in my mind that advances that, that builds people power, that brings us closer together, is something worthy of our attention and our support. And I would put Hometown Action in that category. So, David, did you have anything for Warren before we let him get out of here?
No, I'm just happy to know Warren, Kathleen, and all the folks, Justin over at Hometown Action. Appreciate everything that they do, and I just if you're gonna let him go, I just say go out and seek them out on the internet. You can get involved with them on their Zoom calls. They have regular Zoom calls that they invite the community members in to participate in. And it kind of goes back to that same old saying: there's more that unites us than divides us, and the politicians do their best to keep us from talking to each other and just having normal conversations and realizing that we actually have a lot of things in common, and we could actually do a lot of good in our communities like Hometown Action is doing, outside of relying on a government to take care of us or a government to, kind of lead the way. We can lead the way ourselves if they'll get out of the way. And that sounds kind of like a Reagan-esque quote, but there's a lot of truth to that, and Hometown Action's doing it. One of the things that you did mention was, I wanted to mention, was Automotive Free Clinic that you come up for and help Zach with. It's good work.
We got to work together. I've been so impressed with what Zach has created there, and I've been thankful to work in community with Zach. Uh, I'm right now in Camp Hill, where I'm currently sitting. I'm in Chambers County. Many folks read the book Hammer and Hoe. They're familiar with the communist sharecroppers organizing and the racial violence that resulted. I'm a quarter mile away from where all of that went down. This is the same place, and we honor that work that was attempted and done in the past with the things that we do, and trying to change the mindsets of what's possible in rural areas where there is so much hopelessness. But my goodness, the folks like CJ Marbett and Dean Bonner here in town, the individuals I get to meet, people who sit on the internet and they say that there's nothing going on in rural places, or people vote against their own interest, or all of those things that they throw out. They just get out here and talk to folks and meet with folks. They realize that a hell of a lot of that is noise, and that we can actually find a way to work together.
Right. And we don't have much of a choice. To kind of bring it back to something you mentioned earlier about the future that we're facing, I think anyone who doesn't have their head in the sand can look around and see the state of the world, see the state of the environment, the state of the economy, and recognize that, you know, your kids and my kids are not going to have it as good as we had it. And frankly, we didn't have it as good as our parents had it. In a lot of ways. And this cycle is continuing to get worse. And so we don't have a choice but to get together and work with each other, because each other's all we've got. So thank you, Hometown Action. Thank you, Warren. Yeah, it was great to see you at Troublemaker School. I know you'll be out and about. I'm sure we'll run into you again. But you guys have always been willing to work with other folks and be in coalition with folks, and I think that's important as well. So yeah, I just want to echo David's comments. If you're looking for a way to get involved in the community, if you are in a rural area or you want to, maybe get more connected with rural areas, whether you're in a union already or, you don't have a union, this could be your outlet to get involved. So check it out, Hometown Action. Warren, you got anything else to plug before we let you out of here?
Just hometownaction.org. I am Warren at hometownaction.org. Very simple email. Reach out to me. Get in touch if you're like some of the folks I've mentioned in your community, and you feel like there's not a lot of options for you, and you want to do something. Please get in touch with us.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Warren. We appreciate it, and you have a good rest of your weekend.
All right, appreciate it.
You just saw a clip from the Valley Labor Report. We are live every Saturday morning from 9:30 a.m. till 12:30 p.m. And we pride ourselves on keeping all of our content free to everybody so that we can talk to as many working folks as possible. If you support the work that we're doing, you think that it's important, you think that it's good, then consider making a monthly contribution to the project, and you can do that on our website, tvlr.fm.
Which side are you on?